Hey folks, here OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the Apeman C650. This is a car dashboard camera with a 2K resolution, so it's a bit better than the 720p and 1080p cameras we typically find on these units, and best of all, it's also on Amazon for only $70, which is quite affordable as well. Otherwise, it takes a standard micro SD card, which is not included. It supports up to 32 gigabytes, and also features a wide-angle 150-degree lens, and also HDR is built in as a feature, which is pretty useful if you're looking for ultra-fine detail. It also has a unique form factor. As you can see here, it has a cube-like shape, as opposed to the typical elongated rectangular slab we find on most of these car dashboard camera designs, which is a little bit quirky and a little bit different. Otherwise, the packaging here, pretty generic, shows off some of the specifications on the back. It does have a G sensor, like most dashboard cams, which means that if you're in an accident, it's going to detect that motion. As a result, it's going to stop and actually save the video, so it prevents it from being deleted. Whereas typically, if you're just driving normally and you have an SD card inserted, it's going to continuously loop that video. So once the memory card, let's say it's 8 or 16 gigabytes, becomes full, it's going to record over that because you're just driving by and nothing has happened. You can see here there also uses a mini USB port for charging and for power, as opposed to the more standard micro USB port. So that's something to typically note. So before we look at the camera's design, we're going to check out the accessories. You get access to a user guide as well as a driver CD, so for installing things on a computer. There's also the aforementioned charger, which uses the mini USB, has a pretty long cable length, which is nice to see, and the other side also features a USB port, so you can also charge a smartphone or tablet when you're using the dashboard cam. There's also the windshield mount for attaching this onto the glass when you have the unit set up properly. And now we're going to take a look at the design of the C650. So you can see here it's made out of plastic, so it feels pretty lightweight, but at the same time it is fairly well built. It doesn't creak or cringe when you start using it or hold it, so it feels like it's going to last for a bit of time. The front here features a lens. You can see some more details about the focus, and you can definitely tell that it has a wide angle design going on here. Like most action cameras as well as dashboard cameras, it's a fixed focus camera, so it's not going to be great if you're capturing still images, even though it does have a 12 megapixel sensor. Otherwise, the battery in here is integrated and can't be removed, so something else to quickly note. And like most dashboard cameras, the battery life here is quite short because it's really just meant for you to use in a car or in a vehicle. So if you remove it from power, despite maybe charging it for 3 hours, it's only going to last for about 15 minutes, so that's something to quickly note. It's not going to replace your action camera anytime soon. Otherwise, the side here features access to a micro SD card slot. There's also a power on-off switch. The back features a 2.4-inch TFT LCD display, which I think is pretty generous considering the size of the dashboard cam. However, it is a transflective screen as opposed to a matte screen, which means it will glare under the sun. And considering that this will be in the car for quite a while, it's not the best design in the world, and I hope to see a matte screen in the future from this company. The top also features an LED light for notifications and for power. The bottom features access to 4 ports and buttons for going back, selecting through main things in the settings, as well as going through the main UI. And the sides here features access to a micro HDMI port. A cable is not included, but you do have the ability to plug it into an HD television for viewing back your images and videos. There's also the aforementioned power port via a mini USB. So overall, the design is pretty clean and something that is a bit different from the norm. So as a 2K camera, this thing again will compete with the likes of the Xiaomi dashboard cam that we also saw, a few other models that features that Ultra HD resolution as opposed to just standard 720p. And we are excited about that HDR built in, which means it should have a little bit more of a clearer image quality, which will be useful for distinguishing details like license plates, let's say, if you are in an accident, and that's something to quickly point out. So otherwise, we're just going to go into the settings next and check out the user interface when we plug this thing into power. The C650 is now plugged into a power bank, transforming it into a pseudo-action camera with extended battery life. There's a green LED on the top which will illuminate and tell you that it's being charged and power is running through. It charges and takes power at a rate of 5 volt 1 amp, so that's something to quickly note. Fairly energy efficient, and this is what the boot up sequence looks like. So the logo is going to come up for a second. We don't have an SD card in at the moment, so it's going to flash that warning. And otherwise, in the top right-hand corner, you have access to the power status icon. So right now it's draining off of a plugged-in source as opposed to the battery. There's also indications for the time and date stamp, as well as a time stamp on the top, which you need to calibrate the first time when you get it out of the box. It could be useful, again, if you're in an accident. It tells you when exactly the accident took place when you are reviewing that data. Otherwise, there are software keys on the bottom here that takes you kind of corresponding to the keys on the bottom as well, so it's fairly intuitive and easy to navigate. The screen does time out after about 5 seconds of inactivity. You can change that through the settings as well, just to save on power. As you can see here, that the LCD screen does a pretty good job. Despite not being an IPS panel, colors are fairly accurate looking. It's pretty bright. Again, it's not a transflective, it's not a matte screen, but rather a transflective screen, which we don't love, but it does perform fairly decently as far as viewing angles are concerned, and it does have, again, a pretty even backlight, which is nice to see. As you can see here, it definitely has a ultra wide angle lens effect, almost a fisheye lens effect, which definitely stretches things out and distorts your image slightly just to capture more within one frame of the picture. Something to quickly know, it's going to occur with most dashboard cams. So checking out the menu next, we can go through things such as the settings. So sliding up and down, we can go through things like viewing back your images or videos taken. Right now we don't have any, but there is a very small speaker on here. It's a little bit tinny if you want to play back your videos directly. There's also the ability for it to cycle back into taking images, and that uses the fixed focus sensor. So going back out and tapping on a few other things, if we wanted to check out the menu for, we'll tap on the key below here, and we can change things like file playback, time and date stamps, the video resolution, the photo resolution. Those things can also be changed. There's also things like image quality between fine or super fine, auto balance settings, LCD settings for when it times out, how bright it gets, the detection for the accelerometer and gravity sensor, the beeping, so that's a very small mono speaker driving that component, motion detection, collision detection, some things like that, and also a bit more information about the language, formatting for memory if you have an SD card inserted, as well as about, so that tells you the firmware version that the camera is currently on. So things are pretty intuitive and easy to use. When you're done, you just press the back key once more, and it takes you right back into the main menu. So things are pretty easy to get used to. It doesn't really require a learning curve, which is nice to see. Next, we're going to play back a sample clip that we took with the C650 to show you guys how the image quality and video quality is like. As shown from that test video clip, you can tell that the image quality here is quite strong, that it's accurate, it's detailed, and the impressive thing here is the color reproduction is quite accurate. For the purposes of a car dashboard camera, I think that you'll be pleased with the performance on here. Still images, as far as landscape shots go, are pretty good. Close-up shots, macro shots don't tend to fare as well, just because of that fixed focus sensor. And overall, again, as a car dashboard cam, it does excel. Low light performance could be a little bit better. It doesn't have more fancy features like an infrared light or anything like that to assist it, so it struggles a bit more. However, important details like license plate numbers can still be distinguished, at least we saw that in our tests, and you can check out more details, of course, in our official written review. But for now, we were definitely pleased with the overall video performance and the quality of the sensor that Apeman decided to use on here. A pretty good attempt overall, especially for the sub $70 price point for a 2K resolution car dashboard cam. I think it's something that's worth picking up if you already don't have, if you're considering it, or you don't have a car dashboard cam in the first place. If you already have a 1080p resolution model, I would say it's not absolutely necessary to upgrade, even though the video quality here is slightly better than most dashboard cams we've seen in the past. However, this one is a very solid option if you are considering one. You can learn more details about this unit in our official written review, but this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been the Apeman C650 car dashboard camera.